What's up, my fellow emo, pop punk, metalcore music lovers? Matrix here, and you are locked into the Matrix Music Review Podcast, the only place to get your alt-rock scene music fix and the best place to find your new favorite band. We are back today with another review episode. I got 5 albums/EPs to talk about, and then at the end we're going to talk about 2 other things really quick in the news section. And from there, we will officially be almost completely caught up on all of the albums that I missed when I took that little break a few months ago. There's still like 1 or 2 that came out in July, but we'll be back on track after this. I'm really excited to talk about these albums today because they have some of my favorites that I've listened to recently. And there's obviously a big one that we need to talk about that I haven't talked about yet. So looking forward to doing that. As always, the link you need for everything for me is in the description of this episode. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Matrix Music Review. Instagram is where I am the most active. That's where you'll find me most of the time, posting new tours, posting songs, posting playlist updates, all of the above. You can find it on there. Give that a follow. And while you're at it, head over to Spotify and follow the playlist Control-Alt-Save-25. That is where you can hear all of the songs that I talk about in this episode from different albums, as well as some other songs that I've been listening to throughout the weeks. If you're listening to this podcast on Apple Music or Spotify, go ahead and leave a 5-star review. Leave me a comment. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there is an album or an artist that I need to be checking out that I haven't done so yet. I'll be more than happy to do that. And make sure you are heading over to YouTube and subscribing to the YouTube channel. We have all of the podcasts over on YouTube at this point. Looking to get some more subscribers so that I can see that there's some interest over there. And once I get some interest over there, we'll be posting some more content, some interviews, some other different longer form podcasts that we look into, almost like video essays, so to speak. So go ahead and subscribe over on YouTube at Matrix Music Review, and we'll start that content towards the end of this year. With that, let's jump into our reviews, with the first being the new EP from Sace6, which is Limerence. Not sure how to classify this artist in terms of the sound. It's definitely very emo-inspired lyrically, and you hear that immediately on the first track, Wake Up. And what I mean by the emo track and emo lyricism is, in Wake Up, you get, if I wake up, you wouldn't be someone I imagine, you'd be someone who happened. And I'm going to relapse on poison. All of those different imagery pieces that we get, and those just emo to its core lyrics is what immediately jumped out to me and why I classified it as emo. But this entire EP has some of the more well-done vocal deliveries that I've heard this year, because it's not just all melodic vocals. There are some screams and heavier stuff in there. And a track like Easy Exit is 100% where you see those vocals shine through. And it's a Rain City Drive collaboration, which those voices between these 2 artists blend so well together. Easy Exit is all about how it's someone looking for an easy way out. And we get more interesting words in this track, like habitual entropy, which to me is absolutely a killer band name to use. Habitual Entropy would be a sick band name to come out, but this EP kind of is exactly what I expected Jaden to do and the route I expected Jaden to go. So it's not surprising to see him featured on this, but that's not the route that he went, and I'm so happy to have an artist that did go that route with Sace6. Said and Done is such a dark and heavy, just absolutely fucking brutal track that I continue to play pretty nonstop. And the theme of this EP to me is just the absolute brutal pain that has been caused by someone that has led to this emotional writing state that clearly has happened during this process of getting this EP created. I think for me, the driving point of that brutal nature is on a track like Devotion, where you get the how come I don't feel it, the love I wasted, I won't give back, impatience, and you just get these heavy screams that really just reinforce the feeling behind it. And that's where I always tell people you have to listen to emo or metalcore with a little bit of a different ear, because I hear a lot of times from people about the screaming being a turnoff. And I can understand that, especially if you're not a super big fan of like deathcore or hardcore or anything like that. But something like this, where most of the track is being sung melodically, listen to what's being screamed, or listen to what is being shouted almost, in a sense, because when you listen to that and you understand lyrically where it's coming from, it's necessary to put that extra emotion into it. And it's just that it comes with a little bit more of an edge and a little bit more of a grit than we may hear in another song where they might shout and it's a lot softer, especially in like a punk or a pop song where they're just like shouting. Overall, this was a really solid EP for me. I have not been able to put it down. It is a 5 out of 5 for me. This is one of my favorite EPs that's been released in the past few years. It has definitely put this artist in my radar, in a sense of, I think the explosion is coming, and I think that the mainstream appeal is coming very soon. Obviously, they just played Warped Tour, and I got to check them out for a little bit, which was amazing. And I can't wait to see what's coming next, because if this is how we're going to, more or less formally introduce ourselves to the alternative scene, I can't wait to see what happens. So if you haven't heard it yet, go check out Limerence by Sace6. Next up, we got Jersey Fresh, the new album from Friend Circle. This is the official follow-up to Suburban Dictionary, which for me was an all-time album. It has become one of my all-time favorite albums from a band. And Friend Circle returns with the Blink-182 sound and the edge that we really love. Shut Up really starts that all off before it flows right into Late Nights. And Late Nights is one of those tracks where we get the initial "hey motherfucker" that kind of kicks it off, and it's unmistakable that you can just hear the influences in this track. And it's a really cool addition of some of those more country themed guitars behind it, but it still sounds like the Friend Circle that we've come to know and love. But once again, these Friend Circle boys, every single time they release a new album, I go in thinking there's no way they can top some of these singles. One of these singles has been a favorite for me. In this case, it was Late Nights as well as Dream Guest, but they did it again. Haunted Houses is absolutely perfect. I don't think that there is a better song on that album, and it's right up there with Orange Tang for me as this band's best track. I really hope that some other people go and check this out and get a chance to listen to this, because Haunted Houses really is that nostalgic pop punk track that we've come to know and love. And Haunted Houses, even though it's got the Halloween theming in the title, has definitely become my summer anthem and one of my most played songs of this summer. So go check that one out. And I still love Dream Guest. I still think it's really creative to integrate that interview clip into the very beginning and really just kind of make a nice little parody on what the hell was being done during that little era of JoJo Siwa. And then the last track that I'm going to mention here is Ghosted, and that kind of started like Take On Me by Aha for a second. I had to like do a double take, but I love the lines in it. Being stuck in your daydream since I was 18, and the comparison between this band and Blink-182 just can't be fake. Like, there's no way that you can just say that and not hear it when you listen to tracks, especially like Ghosted. And it just kind of smacks you in the face, and it's hard not to hear it. And so overall, this is such a fun album. Even though it's a little shorter than what we got with Suburban Dictionary, I think it does a really good job of staying true to itself. The band stays true to itself. It's a sound that I absolutely love, and I don't think anybody else is going to hate this sound either. To me, this is a 9.2 out of 10. I think this band, very much so like Bridge the Gap, when we talked about them a few episodes back, are one of the best kept secrets in this alt-rock scene right now, especially in the pop-punk scene. It is hard not to think that you just kind of have a hidden gem if you know about Friend Circle. So if you haven't heard it yet, go check out Jersey Fresh by Friend Circle. Next up, we got Where You Found Me by Stateside. This is officially Stateside's first full album, and they kind of fall in the metalcore, pop punk, emo-ish sound. And if I'm looking to give some comparisons here, I'd say Neck Deep, Hawthorne Heights, Knuckle Puck. Around those, if you're fans of those bands, you'll like what Stateside's doing. It's slightly poppier than what I remember from the EP last year, where we had tracks like Juliet Has a Gun, but I like that we leaned fully into this. I like that we didn't really try to do too much one way or cut it half and half. We really leaned into this side. It starts really strong with Heads Up Big Guy, and then also with Stay Sweet, which is a Joe Taylor collaboration, and Joe Taylor's been all over the place this year doing a ton of different collabs, which is awesome. And Stateside, it's hard not to hear that Cali sound and that Cali influence in there, where it just feels sunny. These first couple tracks just feel sunny, and I don't know how to explain that, but it just feels like it's bright, it's in your face, it's synonymous with being around a beach or just having that bright sunshiny, not a cloud in the sky kind of day going on. You also get some like skate punk or hardcore runs, depending on how you want to look at it, in tracks like Vista Verde and California Calls You Home. And the musical aspect of this album is what really stood out. It feels very polished, it feels very calculated, and that they really knew what they were going for when they were creating this record. The guitars all sound right, the drums all sound right, everything in there is flowing so well together that makes it so polished. I think one of my critiques about this album is that there's a middle section that kind of slows down a tiny bit in terms of just the overall sound, with The End's Not Near and Like a Rosary. Those tracks are a little bit more subdued. And then we have Clear Day in that as well. But then we end with a track like Mile Marker, which is a massive standout to me, which is a little bit more of a mid or up-tempo track. And I feel like if you switch Clear Day with Mile Marker, it may feel like it flows a little bit better. But Mile Marker has this perfect sound that has a great vocal delivery. And it's all about just how you feel great with mile markers on your eyes, and all about the traveling and being on the road and different things like that. A really solid end to the album, and I think right now it's a great introduction to Stateside. I think Stateside has really come out here. I know they've been on a bunch of tours recently with a lot of bands that have established themselves, and for a first album, this is really solid. I think it's an 8.4 out of 10. I tend to like the more upbeat tracks a little bit more than the slowed down ones or a little bit low tempo. But overall, definitely something that you got to check out. Definitely something that I feel like has something for everybody. So go check out Where You Found Me by Stateside. Next up is Never Enough by Turnstile. This is Turnstile's fifth album and their first since Glow On in 2021. And obviously 2021's Glow On was a massive success, both commercially and critically, and really catapulted Turnstile into the mainstream. And so knowing that it was this mainstream catapult that went with Glow On, I was nervous about this going in. And especially after we got the title track as a single, which I really didn't care for. But then we get into the album, and Soul moves me back to the Turnstile that I really enjoyed. There's this mosh energy in this track. There's lyrics that say bright lights are never what they seem, and that kind of seems to be a theme for some of these bands that are getting into the spotlight. We heard it from Sleep Token this year about trying to hide in the limelight, and now Sleep Token saying, the bright lights really aren't what they seem. And that's, again, after we get past Soul, we kind of go down again and I start to drift off and my interest starts to drift away because these songs to me never had enough in them, except for a very few, that held my attention for the amount of time. A track like Dull sounds exactly like Holiday, just 2.0. It's got the same sound, the same build to I'm Going Dull, and It's a Holiday. They sound almost identical to me. And I think that's why this album didn't connect with me, because it didn't feel very fresh. It felt like there was definitely some glow-on aspects that got lumped in here. It felt like some of our experimentation was more to cater to the mainstream side, which is totally fine if that's the way that you want to go. But for me, look, Turnstile had an absolutely impossible task here. They've been gone for 4 years, and they've come back with a brand new album after being Grammy nominated and having all this commercial success and opening for Blink-182 on arena tours. It's damn near impossible to come back and do a perfect album all over again. And I think this album just feels like they're not quite sure what direction they want to go. Because when they lean to their hardcore sound on songs like Sunshower, I love it. There's no doubt in my mind that I love those types of tracks. But the more mainstream tracks like the title track or Dreaming or Seeing Stars, those don't really click with me because it feels like a little bit of a deviation from the Turnstile that has really cemented themselves as one of the best acts in this scene. And because it's so all over the place, it's really hard for me to give this a score to review. I don't think I'm going to actually give it a letter score or a number score, I should say, because there's just no flow in this album between, our classic sound, our hardcore sound, before we get to, 3 that are experimental. It's just kind of all over the place, and it's really hard for me to just give that a numerical rating at this point. It's definitely an album that I've got to go back to and listen to a few more times, even though I've listened to it a bunch already, because it's just got this feel to it that when we get to those tracks that I don't care for, my mind drifts off and I start thinking about other things and I start looking in other directions, and that's how it's really hard for me to kind of pay attention to what's going on. Let me know your thoughts on it. Never Enough by Turnstile. Let me know what you think of their new album. And the last album we need to talk about is Corporate POP by Hot Milk. This is the follow-up to 2023's Call to the Void, which I absolutely love. This is officially Hot Milk's second album, and they have such a super unique style to them that plays to all types of fans. They have a lot of anthemic vocal deliveries, with Jim having a more Jacoby Shaddix type sound to me. It just is undeniable how catchy their songs are and how well everything blends together. Seeing this band live this year for the first time was amazing, and I'm so happy I got a chance to see them. And it really kind of set the stage for what this album was going to be. Anthems start on this album right away with Insubordinate England. And I think it's absolutely hilarious that we planned this album to put a song about England and then a song about America back to back. And Making America is just this supercharged, in-your-face track, more or less talking about what's going on in America these days. And it's great. It's a self-awareness too, I feel like, because when you put those two together back to back, it's like, look, we know we're from England, but we also know we're making it to America. This is what's going on. This is how we feel. And I like that Hot Milk's not afraid to add production with electric sounds or changing the tone of a guitar here and there to not be the same tone throughout all of their album. And the guitars really do shine here. I think it gives this album such a boost that it takes it to that next level. I absolutely love Sunburn from Your Bible. It has the energy and heat to kind of match that title. And I love that Han does the verses and Jim does the choruses, and then he has this like very big blech at the 2:30 mark that we don't really hear too often in this record. And so when you get kind of all of that in a row, it's really captures your attention. And I think they also have a huge hit on their hands with Asphyxiate. It's a nice mid-tempo track that still gets the job done in terms of music and lyrics, but takes you down a step from the high energy that we've been getting all throughout this album. And it just flows. Is it too late to asphyxiate the love and hate that we create? I know that they probably had to do that take like 3 or 4 times because I almost have messed it up numerous times in this recording. So it's not an easy thing to do. It's a little bit of a tongue twister, but you know, again, this is a little bit on the lower side in terms of the amount of tracks on here, but there's absolutely no sophomore slump from this band. I think this band, when you look at who they're touring with and who's touring with them, they are an absolutely super hot act on this alt rock scene right now. And this album is a 9 out of 10 for me. Corporate POP by Hot Milk is one of my favorites recently. Let me know what you think. Go check it out. And then the last 2 pieces of news that I want to talk about is there is a new documentary out from Simple Plan, kind of going through the band's history and how they've gotten to, I think it's 25 years at this point that they've been around. And Simple Plan is one of my favorite bands of all time. They really are that band that, you know, when I was growing up, if they've been around for 25 years, I'm 31 at this point. So, you know, when they started out, I probably wasn't huge into music, but they definitely have some of my first musical memories with being involved in the Scooby-Doo movie, the live action, and hearing Addicted on the radio, hearing I'm Just a Kid on the radio. All of those different songs really stood out to me when I was younger and kind of helped me fall in love with this alternative pop punk scene. And so getting a chance to check out that documentary was pretty cool. Definitely interesting to see the dynamic between Chuck and Pierre and how that has had to evolve over the years for them to even be able to share the same stage at this point. But really cool documentary. I think I'm hoping more bands do this because it's really cool to see a little bit of a glimpse into the lives of these bands as they've grown up and as they've come about in the scene, and now how we're having a little bit of a renaissance here, you know, 20, 25 years later into their careers. So really cool documentary for you to check out. If you haven't checked it out yet, it is on Amazon Prime, the Simple Plan documentary. And then the last thing we're going to end on is the loss of a absolute giant in the metal scene. Ozzy Osbourne has passed away. At this point, it's a couple of weeks, and we just finished the funeral this week. I have never been a huge Black Sabbath listener, but it is very much so evident to me that Ozzy meant so much to our scene. Ozzy meant so much to the music industry and so much to the world as a whole. Even the last farewell concert that we saw, you could see the emotion on a ton of different people's faces and on the artists' faces as well, that this was going to be seriously impactful when we lost him for good. So definitely sad to see, and hopefully we don't lose any more of our legends this year. I feel like we've lost quite a few. So it is time for that to stop for a little bit. But that wraps it up for us here on Matrix Music Review. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. Links to everything you need for me in the description of this episode. Follow on Spotify. Leave a comment. Leave a 5-star review. Go follow on YouTube. Subscribe over there. Like the playlist. Share the playlist. Share the podcast. Let's get some more people in here and get some more people used to finding some new bands that they may know and love. And with that, I will see you guys next time with more music, more reviews, and introducing you to your next favorite band. See you then.